Welcome to Infinite Novel. Dive into epic alternate realities. All rights to original creators.
Chapter 101, ch 101, framing Konoha. Quickly skimming through the documents, Ren was already experiencing the start of a headache. He couldn't just frame Danzo. Even if he fabricated evidence and put it among the documents for people to find, nothing would have come out of it. Danzo had positioned himself in a very unique position. He was too useful for many influential people to get rid of, while also being invisible enough for the masses not to really care about him. The prefecture lord? Oh, people were going to go apeshit once they heard about his crimes, because he was a public figure. But Danzo, who? After the initial outrage, people will forget his existence in a week. Taking a certain document into his hands, Ren frowned. It basically hinted at Danzo being the perpetrator in a very roundabout way. To an amateur it would be damning evidence. But to somebody with more understanding, it was a clear attempt to frame Danzo for these crimes. But it was not a document Ren prepared. No, this one was already here. Ren's eyes narrowed. That overly competent old fox. He muttered under his breath in astonishment. He only had to think about what the most likely scenario to happen was if this was found among the evidence, and the image was not very satisfying. The investigators would come to the same obvious conclusion as he did, that somebody was trying to frame Danzo, and that would put doubt on all the evidence. Enough for Danzo to weasel out of the accusations. Some people would probably realize that it was Danzo who was framing Danzo just so Danzo could pull exactly that Uno reverse card for the evidence. But how were they going to freaking prove that? This was exactly the level of circular logic that worked in the ninja world. Well, he is certainly prepared. Ren exasperatedly shook his head as he used wind chakra to shred the document into pieces. Then his eyes fell on the bundles of documents on the nearby shelves, and he suddenly felt a chill go up his spine. With a shudder, he cringed. Fortunately, he was not here to frame Danzo personally, otherwise, he would have had to go through all of that, so he could remove anything that could put doubt on the evidence. No, even if everything went perfectly, Danzo could just buckle up and use his connections to get out of it. He'd just need to stay out of sight for a year or so. But Ren was prepared. Instead of Danzo himself, he was going to frame Konohagakure. A smirk spread on Ren's face. These documents hinting at Danzo's complicity in this matter, he could use them, put some pressure on the old monkey, have the daimyo drop the book on him and the village, but also put enough doubt about Danzo's participation in the whole mess. That was Ren's end goal. Danzo could easily weasel out of it, but Konoha as a whole could not. The village's higher UPS will suspect foul play from one of the other villages. Hell, even the daimyo would do that. And these documents that Danzo prepared to get himself an easy way out will neatly redirect that suspicion to him. Who knows? Maybe Ren would be lucky enough for some of Danzo's allies in the village to abandon him? And, he glanced at the corpse on the floor. Having a root ninja's corpse be found here was actually a good thing for his schemes. Poor Sarutobi. Ren chuckled. He was going to have a few very bad days in his immediate future. After hours of setting the scene and putting some documents into the pile while taking some away, Ren was finally done with his work. Honestly, never again. This was not for him. Trying to be all sneaky and cosplay as some sort of supervillain mastermind in the shadows was exhausting. He preferred to simply explode his opposition fair and square. That was a lot less of a mess. He promised to himself that he would never make plans that depended on the survival of some scum like Danzo in the future after dealing with Orochimaru. That way lies madness. Ren left his clone to take care of the rest and ensure that the rebellion would go smoothly while he teleported home. After a nice hot shower, he put his nicer kimono on and started walking toward the academy. It was almost time for the kiddies to finish their exams, and he promised Ino to pick her up. Sadly, Hinata had to go through some inane Hyuga clan traditions after graduating. Apparently, the elders wanted to meet her to ascertain her worth or something equally asinine. Ren was already prepared for her to come to him in the evening, all huffy and steaming in her own anger. He didn't envy her circumstances. They were treating her like trash. But at the same time, they were still her family, and she was too kind to pull a tacky on their collective geriatric posteriors. She had it harsh. Ren arrived at the academy, and his lips twitched into a smile when he saw Ino proudly preening in the middle of a gaggle of overly excited teenage girls, her headband sitting proudly on her forehead to show it off to the world. Despite spending most of her time training under Ren, she was still a very popular girl among her peers. She simply had those social maneuvering skills down pat without needing to think much about it. Suddenly, a boy approached the group, all shaky and clearly on the verge of a mental breakdown. He had dark hair and dark eyes, looking quite average, but the forehead protector on his head was a bit worn out, so it was most likely not a recent graduate. For a moment, the boy just stood near them, clearly not knowing what to do. But then the girls noticed his presence and turned toward him, making him sweat a bit more as he hunched under their attention. Ren started to feel a bit of pity for the guy. His fingers involuntarily twitched, and he considered giving the poor boy some hell. Ino Yamanaka. I love you. Please go out with me. I will make you happy. The boy abruptly shouted as he straightened up, surprising everybody. Some hell. And there went his pity. Ren's lips twitched in irritation. Fuck that guy. He sighed. Schoolyard drama. Joy. He almost forgot what things were like in the academy. Ren noticed Ino glancing at him as she awkwardly stood in front of the boy, and the telepathy seal pinged him, alerting him to a new message. He curiously opened the channel, and Ino instantly asked, "A little help, please." Ren grinned at her. "You are on your own, baby girl. I have faith in your ability to handle a love-struck genin." "What? No, you traitor," Ino inwardly exclaimed while outwardly cringing under the all-too-hopeful puppy dog-eyed stare of her would-be suitor. Ren quickly turned the seal off, cutting the telepathic connection between them. What kind of boyfriend would he be if he didn't let her experience and find joy in her embarrassing moments? He pulled out a camera. Chapter 102 ch 102, helping Sasuke after properly documenting Ino's embarrassing moment, Ren noticed Hinata coming out of the academy, following her cousin Niji. Deciding to say hello, he approached them. "Hello, Hina." He smiled at the girl, who returned a shy smile full of pride toward him before ducking her head and hiding it underneath the headband tied around her neck. Ren then turned toward Niji and gave him a small nod. "Hello, Broody." Before he looked again at Hinata, "How was the exam?" "Good," Hinata said with great relief in her tone. For the past several days, she was stressing over them. Logically, she knew there was no snowball chance in hell that she would not pass, but logic had little to do with her stress. "Peasant." Niji, however, decided to return Ren's greeting in his usual fashion, causing Ren to deadpan at him. "Dickhead." Niji's expression darkened, but Hinata intervened and put her arm in front of him. "Boys, please, don't fight." Niji scoffed, and he clearly did not like it, but he obeyed. "Come, Lady Hinata. The clan elders are eagerly awaiting you." He tried to sound impassive, but there was an undeniable smug undertone in his voice that Ren did not appreciate. "I gotta go." Hinata told Ren and gave him a quick hug, trying to divert his attention by pressing her soft, big chest a little bit too much into his body. The girl could be very perceptive if she wished. "Okay, good luck." He supportively patted her back, and as they separated, he couldn't help himself. "Oh, and happy stick-pulling, Niji." He quipped toward the boy, who watched their interaction, looking as if he were constipated. "What?" Niji asked with furrowed brows just as Hinata groaned and gave Ren a silent, pleading, and unamused look. Ignoring her, Ren gave Niji a sunny smile. "You know, that stick you got up your ass? Must be hell of an inconvenience to pull it out every evening and put it back in the morning. Or do you sleep with it too? To each their own fetish, I guess." Admittedly, it took Niji's brain a few seconds to register what Ren had said, and when it did, the boy almost flew at Ren in rage. Only Hinata's hand gripping his forearm managed to restrain his anger. Unable to dish out some good old bodily harm on Ren, Niji decided to go for a verbal assault as he snarled, "You disgust me." But Ren only rolled his eyes at him. "That knowledge will warm my heart during cold, freezing nights." He almost hoped the arrogant boy would attack him, to be honest. Niji had an overinflated sense of personal prowess. He was a genin, but he could handle a chinin after guys training, some quite easily at that. And Ren was a chinin, so Niji did not think he needed to show proper basic respect to him. He thought he was stronger. This was the one issue Ren and Hinata did not see in the same way. She still desperately hoped he would get better and considered him family. Ren, however, told her straight up that the boys needed an intimate meeting with a boot if she ever wanted him to stop having a hate boner for her, and Ren was happy to volunteer his boot quite happily. Unfortunately, Hinata disagreed. Ren wouldn't normally care. It was her family, her problem, her trouble to handle. But every single time he visited her in the Hyuga clan compound in his capacity as her tutor, Niji would be there, throwing snide remarks left and right at them. It worked enough to make Ren almost never visit the Hyuga clan compound these days. At first, the boy was trying to low-key get Ren to give up on Hinata, but that passed when she started to improve. Ever since then, Niji absolutely hated Ren's guts because his actions did not fall under his losers-lose mindset. Hinata, the loser, actually started to gather LS way less. Boy, did Niji loathe that. It was quite sad and pathetic. Because of Hiruzen's reforms, everybody graduated later. So, the boy was what? 16? 17? That was just 1, maybe 2 years younger than Ren. He should be way more mature than his canon 14-year-old self. But he wasn't. Instead, he seemed even more hateful and fixated on Hinata. "Do you have to antagonize him?" Hinata asked, sending her exasperated thoughts to Ren, who only mentally nodded. "Yes." With a sigh, the girl simply started dragging the glaring Hyuga boy away as Ren gave him a cheerful wave with his hand. "Finished, Ino?" Ren asked with a small, smug smirk as the huffy blonde stomped her way toward him with her eyes narrowed. When she got close enough she instantly started poking his chest with her pointing finger, stabbing it there quite strongly. "You suck," she uttered. Ren chuckled and leaned forward until his mouth was next to her ear. "You suck better," he whispered, making her flush. "Oof." Ren gasped, feeling Ino's fist impact his stomach, strongly enough to show her displeasure but not enough to actually harm him. "Shut up, perv." Ino embarrassedly whispered back with an annoyed look, but there was a small, amused smile on her lips. They looked at each other, their faces close. Ino's forehead gently landed against Ren's and their lips, when a loud shout interrupted them. "Yamanaka Ino, not again." Ren exasperatedly thought as he turned around, only to see Uchiha Sasuke standing behind them. "I challenge you to a manly duel of youth," the boy said with such a serious demeanor that Ren had to do a double take. Ino also turned toward him and gave him a glare as she crossed her arms across her chest, not happy at all with having their moment interrupted. "I am a female." She deadpanned at Sasuke, who thankfully was not in his mini-guy attire. Instead, he wore his usual blue shirt and white shorts with his hair resembling a duck's ass. "Oh, I haven't noticed," he said, a provocative smirk plastered on his face. Ren inwardly winced a bit when he felt Ino's small flinch. Like it or not, she spent several years chasing after the boy. Even if Ren was pretty sure her feelings for the Uchiha were deader than his clan, it probably still hurt her to hear that sentence. And the duck's ass knew it. Once again, Ren had to say that guy had outdone himself. The aloof Uchiha who communicated in grunts actually learned the art of shit-talking under his tutelage. With her right eye violently twitching, Ino clapped her hands. "You wanna go, punk?" She gritted out, "Sure, let's go. I am going to beat you so hard, your ancestors will feel it in their afterlife." Ouch. Ren cringed when he saw the Uchiha boy freeze for a moment before his eyes darkened and his aloof demeanor became noticeably colder. Somehow, he started to sympathize with Hinata. Was this how she felt when he and Niji tried to verbally taunt each other? Ino was a Yamanaka. She knew enough about psychology to know exactly what to say to return the verbal hurt he gave her several times over and make it stick. Somehow, I doubt that. Suzuki arrogantly stated, "You are just a stepping stone on my path to surpass Hinata. She is and always will be better than you." His eyes glanced at Ren, and a small twinge of hesitation entered his gaze, but it disappeared as soon as it appeared. "At everything," he added as he looked back at Ino, who was now involuntarily balling her hands into fists. Ren resisted the urge to facepalm. Now that just made things personal. Just in case, he gently slid his hand over Ino's fist and made her subconsciously relax her body and calm down her mind enough to intertwine his fingers with hers. As expected from Uchiha, the boy had some serious observation abilities if he noticed the inferiority complex Ino had going against Hinata. With a sigh, Ren decided to intervene. It would be hard to explain to the Hokage why Ino flattened the last Uchiha into a meat paste. "Girls, please, don't fight. There will be enough time for hair-pulling later." Ino and Suzuki looked at him before completely ignoring him and continued to exchange quite sharp barbs, leaving him bewildered. Why did that work for Hinata and not for him? "We can fight in the training ground 41. Let's go," Ino exclaimed, and Suzuki nodded. "Lead the way." With that, the two started walking forward, Ino dragging Ren by his hand, just as he noticed, from the side of his eye, Mizuki approaching Naruto, who was cheerfully waving his headband in front of the exasperated Karen. But seeing the indignant feminine fury on Ino's face, Ren decided not to poke the dragon, and instead of asking her to let go of his hand, he created a shadow clone that quickly disappeared. That should be enough to handle the Mizuki incident. Honestly, Ren was quite interested in how that would go, now that Naruto had properly graduated, was older, and also a tad bit smarter. Surely, Mizuki would not be stupid enough to try the same thing that worked on the 12-year-old stupid brat from canon, right? "Don't kill him, Ino." Ren mentally sighed as he let go of her hand before she started walking into the grassy plains where she would be fighting with Suzuki. "Don't worry. I am just going to fix him," Ino exclaimed, and Ren's shoulders sagged. "I doubt his issues can be solved with more mental trauma, Ino," he complained. But she didn't pay much attention to his words. Pish posh. They just didn't use enough mental trauma yet. Ren slightly hesitated. He should stop this. But at the same time, he believed in Ino, and this fight could be beneficial to Suzuki, too. Whatever. Ren sat down on a nearby tree stump and decided to intervene if they went too far. Wordlessly, Ino and Suzuki stood a dozen meters apart from each other on the grassy plain, and Suzuki took out a coin. Understanding his intentions, Ino nodded, and Suzuki threw the coin into the air. It did several flips as it ascended, then it reached its highest point before falling toward the ground as the atmosphere around Ino and Suzuki intensified. The coin hit the grass, and Suzuki instantly sprang into action, running at Ino with an astonishing speed, before he tripped and rolled several times on the ground until his body stopped in a heap with a pained groan. Ren sighed. Yeah, that was pretty much the expected outcome. The boy could not counter her yin clone at all. Then, Suzuki spasmed and his back bent backward while his eyes opened wide, staring toward heaven in horror, as the high-pitched screaming began, and Ren started to feel uncomfortable. Suzuki's eyes abruptly turned red, and one tomo appeared in each eye, just as Ren was about to stand up and interrupt the fight. Sitting back down, he decided to let Ino cook for a bit longer. Suzuki was clearly not enjoying the experience, but it was the correct call in Ren's opinion. Soon enough, the one tomo became two, and the screaming turned into squealing. "Are you torturing him?" he mentally asked Ino, who sent him an impression of a smug grin back. Showing him some guy on Lee Boy love scenarios I came up with, actually. Wanna see? Just in case, Ren activated his yin seal, just to prevent Ino from getting any ideas. That poor Uchiha bastard. Every time he activated his Sharingan, that would be what he remembers. Ren shuddered. No, he decided he really did not need pink magic eyes. Not with Ino's interpretation of help. Chapter 103, ch 103, worth it. While the original Ren watched Ino helping Suzuki awaken his Sharingan, the clone Ren was hidden as he observed Mizuki's meeting with Naruto. Ren had to admit that he was very curious about what changes his meddling would create here. Naruto was smarter. Mizuki should know that. And that should change everything. Honestly, it was surprising to him that Mizuki actually approached the kid anyway. So, what exactly was the man going to do? How was he going to trick Naruto into doing his bidding? Ren decided he had to be careful here. Weak as he might be in a fight, Mizuki was still an experienced Chunin. He had a lot of experience in their profession. Somebody like that definitely knew how to manipulate people. And Ren didn't want Naruto to get himself into too much trouble, so if the situation looked dire, the clone would jump in. But for now, he wasn't going to steal Naruto's thunder. This will be a valuable experience for the blonde kid, after all. Naruto, congratulations on becoming a ninja, Mizuki exclaimed, and Ren had to admit he did look genuine. A kid would have a hard time catching his deception. Hell, he would have a hard time catching it if he didn't have foreknowledge. Thank you, Mizuki-sensei. So, what did you need to talk to me about? Naruto asked confusedly before he gave Mizuki a sheepish grin and bashfully rubbed the back of his head. Karen-chan is waiting for me at home, and I don't want to make her angry by being late. Ren smiled at that. Karen knew how much becoming a ninja mattered to Naruto. He knew she was throwing a congratulatory surprise party for him. Good for you, kid. Mizuki gave Naruto a grin. I see. The friendship between you and Karen goes deeper than it first seems. Naruto returned the grin and shyly laughed. That's a pity. Mizuki sighed as his expression fell. I wanted to give you a special test. But, well, it is not mandatory, so if you have to go, then we can just skip it, I guess. He awkwardly said. Of course, that managed to excite Naruto like nothing else. The boy's face instantly lit up. A special test? For me, yes, Naruto. If you complete it, you will be directly promoted to the Chunin rank. Mizuki firmly nodded, giving the kid a small, encouraging smile. It's for the exceptional students and well. I wanted to give it to Suzuki at first, but you improved a lot recently, so you deserve the chance. In his hiding place, Ren's eyebrow twitched as he saw the megawatt shit-eating grin spread across Naruto's face upon hearing that. Really? Take that, bastard. Naruto jumped and punched the air with a loud whoop. Okay. Calm down, Naruto. Mizuki fondly and gently rebuked him. Do you need to go or are you up for taking the test? I'll take the test, Mizuki-sensei. What is it? Am I going to save a princess? Guard the daimyo? Infiltrate IWA. Naruto leaped into Mizuki's personal space and rapidly asked his questions with so much enthusiasm that Mizuki was getting a nearly visible whiplash from the questioning. Mizuki put his hands on Naruto's shoulders and pushed him away, the gentle smile on his face twitching somewhat fiercely. Don't worry. The task I have for you is of a similar importance. There is a big scroll in the Hokage office, Mizuki started, and Naruto's eyebrows suddenly furrowed. It was placed there for this test. You must steal it and bring it here. He gave Naruto a paper with a location written on it. But remember, Naruto. The Hokage Tower is guarded by Umbu. I know you can evade them. I have seen you do it plenty of times. But getting caught means instant disqualification. He firmly warned. Do you think you can do that? I can always go and give the task to Suzuki if you are not feeling up for it. Mizuki asked with what looked like a genuine concern at Naruto, who was now silently staring at the paper in his hand. Mizuki-sensei? Naruto eventually asked, just as Mizuki was getting annoyed with the boy's silence. Blinking, Mizuki smiled, keeping up his facade as a helpful teacher. Yes, Naruto? Do you have any questions about the task? Feel free to ask. If I have the answer, I'll gladly give it to you. Naruto nodded as he took a step forward, closer to Mizuki, and looked him in the eyes. His frown disappeared, and a cheerful grin appeared in its place. Idiots say what? What? Mizuki's brain lagged behind for a moment, but before he could decipher that he was just tricked, Naruto used his momentary confusion to brutally crash his knee right into his nuts. Mizuki's eyes widened in pain as he released a breathless gasp, his body locking in, and he was about to start falling forward. But then Naruto's fist crashed into his right cheek, making his head whip back, only for its back to hit the tree behind him with enough force to crack the bark. Mizuki was out cold before he even registered what happened. Naruto stood above his unconscious body, looking between it and his fist with a conflicted expression. He really thought I was an idiot, huh? He muttered to himself, inwardly feeling a bit ashamed when he realized that just a year ago, this ploy might have worked perfectly in Mizuki's favor. His inner conflict was interrupted when he suddenly heard a sound of clapping from behind him. Naruto abruptly turned around, ready for another fight, only to see Ren clapping his hands as he approached him with an amused smile. You just defeated a Chunin, Naruto. Why so gloomy? Ren asked, making Naruto regain some of his cheerful attitude at the indirect praise. Honestly, Ren was disappointed. Not in Naruto but in Mizuki. He expected the man to pull something more, elaborate. Trying to pull the same shit from canon on a more mature, older Naruto? Really? Don't get him wrong, as far as Mizuki's attempt at manipulating Naruto went, his techniques were not bad. He knew about the rivalry Naruto had with Suzuki, and he used it perfectly. Naruto was genuinely pumped to get ahead of Suzuki, but he still treated Naruto like a naive, idiot kid. Well, the boy was a naive, idiot kid. But Karen made sure that his knowledge about the world was up to snuff, so he quickly realized why trying to infiltrate the Hokage Tower and steal something from there might be a big no-no. I just caught him off guard, Naruto admitted and rubbed his nose. Despite his humble words, his expression betrayed that he was quite happy with himself right now. Ren rolled his eyes at the boy. Jinchuriki plus Uzumaki combo was ridiculous. The only reason why the boy didn't have Chunin-level combat ability was his lack of experience in techniques. Physically, he was already on that level despite doing nothing to reach it. Give the boy a year of dedicated training, and he could be physically on the same level as his canon counterpart was it when he returned to Konoha after his training with Jiraiya. He could easily become a Jonin-level ninja in a year. That was just absurd. Most ninjas take years to get there. Hell, Itachi and Kakashi took years to get there after their graduation. Well, yeah, they were kids, and that was a factor. But still, your average Joe Jonin usually only got promoted to Chunin around the ages of 17 to 20. And then, those who don't get eternally locked into the Chunin rank still need to be there for 5-ish years before they get strong enough for Jonin promotion. That's what a normal ninja is like. Ino, Hinata, Naruto, Sasuke, and to a lesser degree, even the rest of Konoha's kiddie main cast? They were not the norm. They were the exception. The talented ones. So, Naruto scratched his cheek. What are we going to do with him? He poked Mizuki's leg with his foot. I am going to take him to the TNI, where I will explain the situation. Ren shrugged. You should come with me to give your statement to get it out of the way. Come on. It won't take long. With that, Ren bent down and, after ensuring that Mizuki would not be waking up anytime soon on his own, he picked the man up on his shoulder. I am sure the old man Hokage is going to praise you for taking out a traitor. He smiled at Naruto. With these eyes, I am going to kill my brother. The original Ren watched as Sasuke was hyping himself up with his edgy monologue as he knelt on the shoreline and admired his new eyes in the river's water reflection. There was an unmistakable Mangekyo Sharinan pattern in his eyes, and he is just going to call it as it is. This was bullshit. Fucking bullshit. Fucking blondes and their cheats. He would understand if Ino helped Sasuke unlock his Sharinan. Okay, that would have been fine. Acceptable. Within the norm. Understandable. But no, the girl had to freaking surpass all the expectations. Just remembering how Sasuke's eyes went from black to red with 1 tomo, to 2 tomo, then to 3 tomo within a minute was making Ren involuntarily twitch. That was absurd enough. But her mental illusions were apparently good enough to make the boy's eyes shift one more time, and voila, Mangekyo Sharinan. That's where this bullshit just crossed the line and Ren's suspension of disbelief bowed out. He only watched Sasuke with a blank expression on his face while Ino stood next to him, grinning and smugly preening at her achievement. It was worth it, Sasuke exclaimed, tears streaming down his cheeks. With this, I can fulfill my ambition. He yelled through his bawling with an ugly, strained smile, as if desperately trying to persuade himself. So, worth it. He let out a pitiful whimper as his body shuddered in revulsion. Chapter 104, ch 104 Old Men and Their Games, Aren't I Amazing? Ino turned toward Ren, giving him a victory sign with her fingers and expecting praise. She completely ignored the silent wails of despair Sasuke was releasing as he stared transfixed on his reflection in the water, both grinning and crying at the same time as if he were deranged. Ren only gave Ino an unamused look before he started rubbing the bridge of his nose in exasperation. Ha! You just created more work for me, Ino. Now I will need to explain to the boy that he can't use his new eyes recklessly, or he will go blind. Ino's smile quickly fell. Wait, really? Is Sharinan that bad? Nah, not Sharinan. Ren shook his head. Sharingan's fine. It's this new level you helped him unlock that's harmful to his eyes. Sorry. The blonde girl shuffled in her place, and Ren stole a few head pats during her inattentive moment. Don't worry about it, Ino. You meant well. He reassuringly smiled at the scowling girl as she pushed his hand away from her head and quickly created a shadow clone. It was adorable. In private, she loved and demanded her head pats, but in public, where somebody could see her, her reputation would be ruined, is what she liked to proclaim. Let's go. My clone can talk to Sasuke. With that, Ren took Ino's hand and decided to leave, ignoring his clone that was giving him a pointed, unhappy glare. Well, duh. He created a shadow clone for this because he didn't want to do it himself. But somebody had to do it, and if a bit of clone abuse was going to solve the problem, then that was a price he was willing to pay. He was like, trust me, bro, and I was like, Kaka N in Kopa, and his nuts went like, crack, and in dash, Naruto. That's enough. Hiruzen Sarutobi deeply sighed as he stopped the excited young man from continuing. When he asked Naruto for a verbal report, he expected something more, professional? Hell, he would be fully happy with something that actually made at least a bit of sense, but Naruto once again surprised him. His inability to give a proper report almost rivaled Minato's naming sense. Sage, bless his future Jonin instructor, cough, Kakashi, the poor bastard, cough, for he will sorely need it. It was almost cruel to Kakashi. But then Hiruzen remembered that he had to wait 3 hours for the man today. That made him remember all the times the Jonin had made him wait in the past, and all the pity he felt for Kakashi evaporated just like that. Serves him right. Besides, he asked for Naruto himself. And so, he shall receive what he asked for. Hiruzen was going to observe that cart wreck with high-er interest. His eyes briefly flickered toward Ren's clone, who was leisurely lounging on the couch while silently observing them with an amused smile. Sigh. If only the man had accepted the promotion. Hiruzen opened his mouth, only for the door of his office to fly open as Danzo hurriedly entered. That wasn't uncommon, but his distressed expression made Hiruzen instantly tense up. Not many things could make the old warhawk lose his cool. For a moment, Hiruzen felt a chill go up his spine as he wondered if another war had broken out. Who is this shady geezer, old man? Naruto suddenly interrupted the rising tension in the room with his carefree question. He looks exactly like the dangerous old men who offer kids candy so they can kidnap them because they want to do nefarious things to them. The resemblance is uncanny. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Danzo. He is suspicious. Hiruzen raised his eyebrow at him while Danzo scowled. And Ren, well, Ren just snickered. And how would you know what these men look like? Hiruzen asked, idly wondering where Naruto learned words like uncanny or nefarious. Sigh. Kids these days were truly maturing fast. Ren told me, Naruto proudly exclaimed, and all eyes suddenly fell on Ren, who owlishly blinked. Gently smiling, he humbly spoke as he looked at Danzo. I am just doing my civic duty. Spreading awareness about threats to Konoha's children is important. You are welcome. You are spreading rumors about me. Danzo exclaimed, offended. Oh, no. I would never. The resemblance is surely just a coincidence. I am certain that such an esteemed personage like Lord Danzo would never hurt, much less kidnap, a child from Konoha. After all, I heard your dream is to be a Hokage. Ren dramatically sighed, inwardly enjoying how Danzo suddenly tensed and gripped his cane. And even a massive moron could see that the main job of a Hokage is to safeguard the future of the village, its children. Anybody who harms them could never be allowed to become the Hokage. That would go against every principle this village was built on. Well said. Hiruzen happily smiled, taking a drag from his pipe. Say what you will about Hiruzen, and the man did some nasty shit in the position. But he never consciously targeted Konoha's children with the intent to harm them. He was usually the one who protected young, talented ninjas from Danzo. Even the brainwashing speeches he loved to dish out like candies had no ill intent behind them, because the man actually believed every damn word he said. It was like a zealous religious fanatic preaching about religious zealotry, creating more zealots. He is not trying to manipulate his audience. He is just preaching what he believes in. Was that an excuse? No, Ren didn't think so. But the intent mattered for the context. Danzo, unlike Hiruzen, was directly malicious. During the Uchiha crisis, Hiruzen tried his best to resolve things, but as the Hokage, he couldn't just bow down to their demands, and the Uchihas were not looking for a compromise. Then, Danzo jumped the gun, and the rest was history. Exactly, Naruto exclaimed, crossing his arms on his chest and firmly nodding with a grin. Ren stifled his rising smirk and looked at Danzo, who was visibly fuming beneath his crumbling aloof facade. See? Even Naruto understands that. Ren said and enjoyed how Danzo gritted his teeth because Naruto was known in the village as a clown and an idiot. Failing the academy several times in a row had its consequences when even the civilian children usually passed on their first try. Danzo couldn't really say anything back, however. Even saying, all I did was for Konoha, in here would be an indirect admission that he harmed Konoha's children, and the Hokage would have to investigate such a claim. Danzo knew that. Slipping through the rules on technicalities was kinda his thing, after all. So, instead of responding to Ren, he angrily turned toward the Hokage. Hiruzen, the daimyo is coming to Konoha. Why? Hiruzen stopped in his tracks for a moment and instantly grew wary. The daimyo was far too busy and usually never left the capital. Something big must have happened for him to move. Something he can't ignore. There was a rebellion in one province. Danzo coldly stated. Evidence about Konoha colluding with the local lord and dealing in slavery was found. Hiruzen's stomach dropped. Yeah, that would do it. The one thing the daimyo could not ignore was civil unrest. One province rebels now, the next one could follow next week. Just because the noble thought the daimyo was losing his grip. That could not be allowed. The heads were going to roll simply because the daimyo could not have it any other way. He could not show weakness. He had to deal with this issue decisively. And if the lord of that province indeed dealt in slavery so much that his populace rebelled to depose him, he and his family were done for. They would be made an example. But the evidence of Konoha colluding with him was troubling. Konoha colluded with many nobles in many criminal activities. Such was the nature of their trade. But Hiruzen did not know of any slavery dealings. Impossible. He shook his head. That must be a setup by our enemies. Maybe IWA? The land of Earth is known for its slavery practices. This would be right up their alley. He mused aloud. I agree. Danzo shamelessly nodded, and Ren almost chortled. His spies probably didn't learn the fact that the first suspect of these dealings was Danzo himself. The daimyo's people were not stupid. They would not let that leak. Ren wondered what expression Hiruzen and Danzo would have when the daimyo says that in the upcoming meeting. It's going to be pure gold. Of course, Danzo will weasel out of it. As Hiruzen said, this looked way too much like an enemy setup to cause some trouble for Konoha. But as long as it forces Danzo to stay low for a few months, at least until Orochimaru's little invasion that, according to the info he gathered via his clones, was definitely coming, then that's alright in Ren's books. We should discuss this further. Danzo said, glancing at Naruto and Ren. Hiruzen nodded. Naruto, you are dismissed. But. The boy's expression turned mullish as he was about to start protesting before Ren's hand landed on his shoulder. Come, this is something the higher UPS need to deal with, he said, making Naruto deflate because he knew he had no business meddling in these issues. Fine. Naruto grudgingly agreed. But just as Ren was about to lead him out of the office, Hiruzen spoke again. Ren, you stay. Fuck. Ren's face fell at exactly the same time as Danzo's, neither expecting that. Glancing at Danzo, Ren inwardly winced at the narrow-eyed glare the old man was giving him from behind his cold facade. Yeah, the man was probably misunderstanding something, and the target on Ren's back just experienced a threefold increase in size. But Ren could sympathize. Why would the Hokage let a Chunin stay unless he was grooming him for something? Old men and their games. Joy. Chapter 105, ch 105, Rings enter and be amazed. Ren said as he opened the door to his cottage in the hidden training ground and let the girls in. Instantly, a whole new world opened in front of them as Ren gave them a tour through the house that was more or less a small mansion at this point than a cottage. In the end, he discarded his space-enlarging seals when he gained an insight while working on them. Instead, what the girls and Ren were touring right now was his personal subdimension he had created. He was always a little leery of trying to do this because it just sounded like such a massive undertaking. That's why he went the Minato route instead of trying to go the Obito route when it came to teleporting. But even his stubbornness had an end. He was missing a crucial aspect in the way Minato and Tobirama teleported. It couldn't be more obvious to him after failing to adjust his transportation seal and lower its channeling time. So, despite his misgivings, when he had gotten a clue on how to go about creating his own subdimension, Ren sighed, buckled up, and gritted his teeth before he spammed clones and attempted to do it. Surprisingly, it only took him 2 weeks to finish it. Now, if somebody asked him to explain the process step by step, he would just say seals had done it. Because, really, that was pretty much the extent of his knowledge of the inner workings of what he accomplished. Maybe it was surprising to some people, but most ninjas didn't really know how their techniques worked. No Uchiha could tell you how their Mangekyo did the bullshit things it did. It just did. Hashirama could not explain how his wood release worked. It just did. Tobirama could not give you a proper lecture about how Edo Tensei pulled a soul from the Pure Lands. It just did. And not many seal practitioners could tell you how they can create a pocket dimension where they can store things so easily with just a slip of paper and a bit of chakra ink. It just worked. Ren's seals that created this subdimension were no different. It was mostly a trial-and-error process based on his understanding of space and dimensions from his work with storage seals and the space-enlarging seals. He was not even sure his trial and error would lead to anything worthwhile when he started, but he had free time. Fortunately, after 276 failures, his clones had finally managed to make a stable subdimension. Now he only had to figure out how to do the whole teleport and intangibility thingy from here, and he can cosplay as a good boy. This is amazing, Ino exclaimed with a wide smile as she twirled and looked around the spacious living room before her posterior landed on the expensive couch Ren bought in the capital. Shaking his head in amusement, Ren also seated himself on the couch, and Hinata quickly sat on his lap, her arm snaking around his torso as she contentedly rested her head on his shoulder. It's quite something, she hummed, pressing her forehead into Ren's cheek as he loosely embraced her. You haven't even seen the best part yet, Ren calmly said, enjoying the excited and anticipatory look Ino gave him. And while he couldn't see Hinata's face, he felt how she tightened her embrace. Without further ado, Ren decided not to tease them and went for the big reveal. With a quick hand seal, he activated one sealing array in the house, and both Ino and Hinata felt a wave of chakra hit them before it spread through the surroundings. They blinked, but nothing had changed? Ino gave Ren a questioning look, and he smugly smirked. You said you have only an hour before you have to go, right, Ino? Frowning, Ino nodded, yeah. I gotta attend the Inoshikacho clan gathering. She rolled her eyes. Ren was actually invited, and she would have loved it if he went with her, but he didn't want to leave Hinata alone this evening. Unlike the Yamanaka clan and its allies, the Hyuga clan did not do celebrations. Hinata wasn't even given a simple congratulations from her family for her promotion to a genin because for them, it was only expected of her. Ino was a bit sad that Ren decided not to go with her, but she could admit that while she would have her entire family and friends around her, Hinata was going to be alone. Even her sister, Hanabi, was not home because of her clan duties. So, Ren decided to have a small private celebration, just for the two of them until Ino came back from the clan gathering. That was pretty much just an excuse for a party. Then I think you'll be pleased to know that your 1 hour has just tripled. The seal. Ren suddenly stopped and pursed his lips with furrowed eyebrows. Yeah, how to explain this in dumbass language? He muttered under his nose, and Ino's smile twitched as she had gotten an urge to punch him. I guess it does not matter. Ren shrugged. You can think of it as if the seal slowed down time for us. Every hour outside is 3 inside. And wasn't that bothersome to create? But playing with his time-stopping seals was fun. There was so much to discover. This was one of the things he found out and could implement. Since you are becoming a full-fledged genin, we will have much less time to spend with each other. Ren continued, giving Ino a slightly embarrassed smile while he snuggled closer to Hinata. So, I wanted to give us more time with each other. Ino's inner anger diminished greatly hearing that, and she couldn't help but have a pleased smile appear on her lips. To cover how happy that made her, Ino snagged a cookie from the table in front of the couch, and she had to admit, Hinata was becoming an amazing cook and baker. Living with her was going to have some very nice upsides for her taste buds. But the cookies were not the only thing Ren unsealed onto the table when they came into the room. Ino's eyes wandered toward 2 small boxes on the table, and her cheeks flushed. Noticing where her gaze was directed, Ren tapped Hinata's back, and she, with a huff of reluctance, dragged herself away from his lap as she sat next to him on the couch. Ren leaned forward and took the 2 boxes into his hands. Opening them, he revealed that each box held a ring. Both Ino and Hinata perked up, and Ren could only wryly smile. Sorry, girls, I am not proposing. Not yet. contrary to his expectations, that didn't lessen their enthusiasm in the slightest. "You are giving us a ring. Of course, you are proposing, Mr. Ino playfully rolled her eyes as she reached out and took the box with a pastel blue sapphire ring. "What bimbo said?" Hinata happily mumbled with pink cheeks and a massive smile as she took the amethyst ring and didn't even take it out of the box before she started to stare at it in awe. Ren scratched his cheek, feeling a bit awkward. He knew he wanted to give them plain copper bands at first. That made him feel a bit bad. The reason why it was silver rings with precious stones was that he found out silver and gemstones were a good conductor for chakra, somehow. These materials allowed him to go a bit wild with the seals on these rings. The rings have an alert seal and a teleportation marker in them. You just need to channel your chakra into them in a certain frequency, and I'll get notified that you are in trouble. "Oh, you will be our dashing samurai, saving the poor maiden from big baddies." Ino gleefully purred and Ren chuckled, putting his hand on her head, which made her happily pout. "There is also a variant of our telepathic seal. It is, well, not a stable connection, so we won't be able to talk with each other when we are too far away." Their telepathic seal had a range of 2 kilometers at best, but we should still be able to send each other a short message once every few hours. And from the way Hinata's eyes sparkled, she was going to be using that function a lot. Ren almost regretted giving it to the girls because he feared his brain was going to be introduced to the horrors of mental spam mail. Shaking his head, Ren put his arms around Hinata's and Ino's shoulders before pulling them both into an intimate half-hug. "And I should be able to teleport you to me or teleport to you, so keep the rings safe and near you, alright, girls?" He felt them both nod as they slipped the rings onto their fingers. For a few minutes, the trio just quietly snuggled, enjoying the peaceful moment. But it couldn't last as Ino's hand sneaked underneath Ren's shirt. "Wait," Hinata said, stopping Ino in their tracks, much to Ren's disappointment. "There is something I want to try." "Yes," Ren tilted his head. The girls were very eager to explore in the bedroom. He didn't think there was a virginity they had not given to him yet. "What is it?" Hinata beamed. "In your house in the capital dash," and Ren suddenly started to have a very bad premonition. "In your office, you have a table, and in the second drawer is a notebook dash, and you do know that room and drawer are locked with security seals all over the place for a reason, yes?" Ren asked with a strained smile, alarm bells going on in his head. Hinata, however, just innocently smiled. "Well, yes. But I can't really help it. My Byakugan can see all." She shrugged as if it wasn't a big deal, and Ren had to take a deep breath. He was fully aware that's not how Byakugan worked, and she knew he knew. "What's in the notebook?" Ino eagerly asked, and Hinata's hands clutched Ren's shirt as she bit her lower lip. With an embarrassed but resolute expression, the Hyuga girl uttered words that made Ren want to dig himself a hole and hide in there for the rest of his life. Ren named it dual cultivation for some reason, even though it has nothing to do with farming. Hinata said with a bit of confusion coloring her tone. "Apparently, having sex can increase our chakra by using it. You know, just like these boring and bothersome meditation exercises we do with him every other day." She huffed with distaste. "Wait. We could have been fucking instead of meditating this whole time." Ino yelled in outrage and Hinata pouted, giving Ino an understanding nod. "Yes." With an expression full of disbelief, Ino looked at Ren, giving him a "are you freaking kidding me" look. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she indignantly asked. "Ino." Ren groaned, but Ino quickly interrupted him. "Don't Ino me, mister." She stabbed her pointing finger into his chest in her usual fashion. Quickly understanding that he wouldn't get any support from Ino, he turned toward his other girl. "Hina dash please," who just gave him a puppy dog eye stare, and Ren's words stuck in his throat as he hesitated, having a very hard time telling her no when she looked at him like that. "We have 2.5 hours. Ino gently took Ren's cheeks into her hands and moved his head to look at her, just as her hair grew and separated into tendrils that started to quickly undress her with a practiced ease. Seeing how Ren's sight dipped toward her chest, the girl subconsciously licked her lips. "Enough for some impromptu training, no?" she breathlessly asked. "This is so embarrassing." Ren, with red cheeks, muttered as he felt Hinata slide in between his legs while her hands started to fiddle with his pants. He felt dirty bringing something like dual cultivation into the world. He intended to tell the girls. Eventually. Later. When he no longer felt so damn embarrassed just thinking about it, but the cat was out of the bag now. As he felt Ino's soft lips land on his mouth while her fingernails scratched his skin on his chest, and Hinata's warm hands took his lower part into her grip as her tongue, Ren decided it didn't matter. He would take the good with the bad. This battle was lost successfully, and he would happily die on that hill. You'll have to subscribe eventually. Why not now?